Right after this offense looked the most dead it's ever looked all season, they just put together their best offensive series of the season. Talk about why you absolutely cannot predict baseball and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. Follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, I'm talking about this wild and wonderful series against the Cardinals, why it looks like Marcus Semien is finally starting to break out, and just when it looked like everything was going right for this Texas Rangers news team, getting some bad news about their rotation health on Sunday. But let's get into the good part of this weekend first, because there was a lot of good happening for the Texas Rangers this weekend, winning 2 out of 3 against one of the hottest teams in baseball. I mean, this St. Louis Cardinals team, I thought they were going to come in and just absolutely curb stomp the Texas Rangers, because in the month of May, they were 19-8. The Rangers dealt them one of those losses. They had 2 losses at the very beginning of May, but they were one of, if not the hottest teams in all of baseball. They had won 5 of their previous 6 games heading into Texas. They had also had I believe, 9 or maybe it was even 11 game winning streak. It might have just been 9 earlier this month. But this was a very good St. Louis Cardinals team and a pretty good pitching staff that the Rangers, outside of Sonny Gray, obliterated. We'll talk more about the Sonny Gray game and the shutout amidst 2 offensive explosions. But the big story this weekend for me was Marcus Semien turning it on, having a phenomenal series. I mean, absolutely the best series that he's had offensively all season long. Heck, it's the best offensive series he's had in quite some time. Now, heading into this series, Marcus Semien, the Rangers' third, fourth, I think third highest paid player on this season, was coming in hitting an abysmal 176 with a 260 on base and a 264 slugging percentage. Now, after one weekend, he's jumped his average all the way up to over 200. His on base is 291. His slugging is up nearly 50 points. He went 7 for 8 this weekend with 3 walks, a homer, a double, 3 RBIs, 6 runs scored, and 2 stolen bases. I believe he was at negative 0.2 or maybe even negative 0.4 WAR before this series. Now he is at a positive 0.4 baseball reference WAR, jumped into the top 11 on the highest WAR leaders of the Texas Rangers, according to Baseball Reference. This is a hugely great sign for this Texas Rangers offense. He just had a phenomenal series. Him and Sam Haggerty, a great series for them, and a great capper from Josh Smith, looking like he's breaking out of a little bit of a slump he had been in for about a 3.5 week stretch in May, with a phenomenal final game of the series for Josh Smith, going 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs, including a 2-run homer in the 8th inning to cap off the scoring. But the Rangers scoring 8 runs in the finale, 11 runs in the first game, and 0 runs in the second game proves that I don't know much of anything. But Marcus Semien getting himself right is a huge thing for the Texas Rangers. They need it. And Marcus Semien has had bad starts before. Heck, he had a really bad start in 2022. Now, this is a little different than the situation in 2022. That was his first year with the Texas Rangers. He was coming off a career season in Toronto, the best season that any second baseman has really ever have, winning a Gold Glove, a Silver Slugger, setting the record for most home runs hit by a primary second baseman before signing that big old contract to be one of these franchise centerpieces in the turnaround for the Texas Rangers in 2022. But that season, he was coming off of a shortened, very, very shortened spring training, coming off of a lockout basically days after he signed that contract. He was also one of the people on MLBPA arguing and negotiating that new collective bargaining agreement during that lockout. He was with a new team. He had all this pressure of a big money contract on a team that had been terrible, and it was up to him and Seager to turn it all around. And they did that literally the next year, winning the first championship in franchise history. But those first 2 months, basically, for Semien were really, really rough. You may remember a certain series in Oakland, which he can't go to and turn himself around this year because nobody plays in Oakland anymore. But it was about this point in the season where Marcus Semien was awful. I remember him being awful, and I went back and looked at the numbers. I'm like, surely he wasn't this awful, and he basically was. The OPS was similar. I mean, heading into this series, Marcus had a 484 OPS, and at that point, around this point last year, it was, or in 2022, it was May 26th. It was the last day before that series in Oakland where he started to turn things around. At that point, his batting average was 185, so not too far off of where it was now. The on base was 18 points lower than it was at this point heading into this series at 242. Slugging percentage was up a little bit at 247. So that's still below 500 OPS nearly 2 months into the season. Now, again, the situation is different here. This is him coming off of a less than stellar year last year, still a good overall season in terms of production, but he was about a league average hitter, and he's getting older. So it's not out of the question to think, oh, he's 34 this year. He's played a lot of games the last few years. He played 159 last year, which was the fewest he played in a regular season, tied with 2018 since he got hurt in 2017. But he's been an Ironman. He played 162 in 2019, 162 in 2021, 161 in 2022. The only game he missed was a game where he was benched in the middle of that skid just to give him a mental day off because he desperately needed it. Then he played all 162 plus all of the postseason games in 2023. I mean, he's played a lot of baseball. There's been a lot of wear and tear on his body. So I know Marcus Semien takes really, really good care of his body. And when he signed this deal, initially I was thinking maybe he might have some kind of an aging curve similar to Adrian Beltre, which, dear Lord, I hope so, because Beltre was still excellent, well into his mid-30s. Heck, into even his late 30s, Beltre was still excellent, which would mean that there's still time for a comeback for Marcus Semien. And there definitely is. There's still over 100 games left in this season. I'm pretty sure if my math is mathing correctly. Yes, 102 games left. We are 60 games into the season. There's still plenty of time for Marcus Semien to turn around. Now, the rest of this offense this weekend didn't have the best time. Seager is still trying to get his timing back. Not a great weekend for Josh Young. Not a super great weekend for Wyatt Langford. Did have a 2-run homer, but the strikeouts have been really mounting for him. I mean, I haven't been a whole lot of great offensive performances outside of, well, a really good game from Kyle Higashioka and Sam Haggerty on Friday in that 11-run outburst. But getting Marcus Semien back to every bat that you get back closer to, the average version of themselves. Not everybody needs to be hot all the time. But if most of these bats can just get somewhere near the league average version of themselves, or I guess the average version of themselves, not league average, but heck, if they could even get to league average, this team is still just 2 games below 500. I mean, right now, you look at their Pythagorean record because of how many runs they scored this weekend. Their run differential is back in the positive after this weekend because this pitching staff has been so darn excellent. But one big piece that was missing this weekend was Adolis Garcia. He did not play at all this weekend. They talked about a mental break for him. It had been a great season defensively for Adolis Garcia out there in the field. In right field, he has been one of the best defenders in the league, but his at-bats lately have been all over the place. It looks like his pitch recognition is just off. He's taking pitches that are right down the middle of the zone and swinging at pitches that are nowhere near strikes. It looks like he's not recognizing, spin very well and just chasing breaking pitches that may start in the corner of the zone but end up in the opposing batter's box. It's been a rough way for him. And it seems like we might see a lot more of Sam Haggerty out there in right field for the Texas Rangers. And Evan Carter's on his way back. He should be back at some point this week. I believe it'll be Tuesday. And we'll see what the outfield alignment looks like from this point on. I would assume Wyatt Langford might go back to left field. We might see Alejandro Ozuna playing some right field and then Evan Carter out there in center field. But with Marcus Semien getting back to a version of himself, I mean, he finishes the weekend 7 for 8 with 3 walks, a homer, and just looked incredible. He looked like himself, and you're still getting that elite premium defense at what has become a premium defensive position at second base. You get a league average version of Marcus Semien, and even if he's staying towards the bottom of this lineup, every bat the Rangers can get back to some kind of average vaults this team that much closer to a postseason chase. And with this pitching staff, even with a little bit of a nick and a setback this weekend, this team is definitely not out of it just yet, like I very much thought they were heading into this weekend. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit about Nathan Eovaldi hitting the IL, what's next, and who is coming up to take his spot in the rotation in the meantime. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Shout out to the Everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back and talking a little bit about the minor leagues, what's been going on this weekend, including a great game and a nice little turnaround for Sebastian Walcott, the Rangers' top prospect. But pitching in this series was absolutely fantastic. Yet again, a pretty economical outing for Jacob deGrom, his 12th start of the season. When I agreed to when I said I would do a Photoshop, a silly goofy Photoshop for every single Jacob deGrom start, because every single Jacob deGrom start is a celebration. I thought that maybe I'd be doing 20 to 25 of those, but we are 12 starts into the season, and it does not look like he is slowing down all that much. Now, the last couple of starts for Jacob deGrom have been a little uncharacteristic, but still very effective. Still a 2.34 ERA on the season, 6 innings of 1-run ball for him in this latest start. The one that was most curious was his last start out. I mean, 2 walks and 0 strikeouts in 5 2/3 innings against Toronto. Still a solid outing, a couple of runs given up in that one, and he looked pretty solid against the Yankees. He looked incredible against Houston. I mean, those 2 starts back to back. The last couple haven't been quite as good. He had a mound visit in after the first batter in the first inning. He still makes it 6 innings, 3 walks. One of those was the first batter of the game on 5 pitches that weren't particularly great. It seems like he might be dealing with a little bit of a blister issue. The Rangers haven't said anything about it, but you can tell him just picking at his hand, and his mechanics were a little bit off. He talked after the game in the first inning, his mechanics were just kind of all over the place. He was flying open a bit too much and trying to be too perfect after 2 years off. It makes sense because he is very much a perfectionist, and so he is always trying to be perfect, but still a good outing for him this weekend, a good outing even in the rough game on Saturday for the Rangers starter in Patrick Corbin. 5 1/3 innings, just 3 hits allowed and 2 runs, which for this offense on Saturday was an insurmountable deficit because Sonny Gray just completely outdueled them. 7 innings of shutout ball, 10 strikeouts. The Rangers struck out 12 times in that game and just looked pretty awful. The offense that exploded for 11 runs the night before looked pretty awful and mediocre in that one, and just could not mount much of anything. But even the Friday game where the Rangers staked Jack Leiter to a big lead, he took that and ran with it. 5 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts, tying his career high. His ERA is now down below 4. Sean Armstrong came in and got him out of a little bit of a jam. We got the rare 3-inning save from Caleb Bosley. 3 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts for him. He lowers his ERA down below 5, which is kind of the goal for a long reliever. And even with this rotation taking a little bit of a hit with Nathan Eovaldi hitting the IL with it is called back right elbow inflammation. It's his tricep issue. That was what he was pulled for in his latest start. And I'm going to stop believing that the Rangers, anytime that they say a pitcher, oh, he's going to be fine. He left the game early, but he's going to be fine. Because this is now, I believe, the 6th time this season that the Rangers have pulled a starter at some point and said, oh, no, he's probably not going to miss that much time. And then it ends up being significantly longer. Not only just an IL stint, but a significant IL stint. I mean, when Cody Bradford was first pulled with the elbow inflammation earlier in spring training, they thought, okay, well, we dodged a bullet there. And the bullet dodged was, well, I guess it just meant that they avoided Tommy John surgery. He threw a bullpen on Friday. He threw breaking balls for the first time, and his elbow feels fine. So that is a great, great sign for him. He and Josh Sborz are both on similar return times, which I'm thinking at this point might still end up being about 3 weeks to a month away. Bradford is going to throw a couple more bullpens before he faces live hitters. So we still got some time before those guys will be ready for even a rehab stint. And then the rehab stint, I would guess, would be about a week for both of them. So he's still got some time for both of those guys, but more reinforcements heading the bullpen. But with Nathan Eovaldi, he is eligible to return on June 13th. At this point, the Rangers are saying it is more of a precautionary thing. He was thinking that maybe he could pitch through it and pitch in this series against Tampa Bay. But because he is a little bit on the older side, because they do have some depth in their rotation that can step up and hopefully hold this record for as long as get them closer back to 500, keep them in the race. They're still just 3.5 games out of the Seattle Mariners because they haven't really been anything special after getting off to that first month and a half hot start. Their pitching has come back down to earth. Their offense has come back down to earth a little bit. They're not, completely falling off. But Houston is still without Yordan Alvarez. He's going to be out for significantly longer than they expected. He's had an issue with his hand as well as the shin issue that had kept him on the IL. They thought he was going to return this week, and something popped up, and there's a little bit of an issue with his hands. But he's going to be out even longer. So the two teams that are ahead of the Rangers, they're not exactly on a pace to go and completely distance themselves, even with this Rangers team playing pretty mediocre right now. But we'll see if it's just the 2 starts for that Nathan Eovaldi ends up missing. It might end up being closer to 3, but I mean, still, so far this season, he's got 69 and a third innings. Same with Jacob deGrom, both of them through 12 starts. Eovaldi has a 1.56 ERA on the season, and he has just been incredible. But who are the Rangers going to call up in his stead? Well, Kumar Rocker is ready to rejoin the Rangers rotation. He will be back on this team on Wednesday. Starting that game, we'll see Tyler Mahle on Tuesday's game. And then I believe it will be Jack Leiter again on the Thursday finale of that series. Leiter looked really darn good in that game against St. Louis, a very, very good hitting team. The changeup looked like more of a weapon for him. And for Rocker, just getting him back into this rotation, the results have been exceptional in his 2 minor league rehab outings. I'm assuming he'll be around maybe 70 pitches. He was a little over 50 in his most recent outing. He went 4 innings of perfect ball and then walked the leadoff batter in the 5th, and that was the end of the day for him. But getting him back in this rotation, just getting him some reps. I mean, right now, the Rangers have 5 starters with an ERA below 4, below 3.75. I mean, right now, the highest starter ERA in this Rangers rotation is Patrick Corbin at 3.71. Jack's all the way down to 3.66, and they got 3 guys that are below a 2.5. They're top 12. They got a quarter of the guys who are top 12 in the majors in starting pitcher ERA, in Jacob deGrom at 2.34, in Nathan Eovaldi at 1.56, and in Tyler Mahle at 1.64. This rotation is really darn good. And because Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi are both a little bit older, I mean, Jacob deGrom was economical, and he only threw 81 pitches in those 6 innings, but the Rangers are being careful to not overwork him, to not overwork Tyler Mahle, to make sure that they have these guys for a stretch run, assuming this team can get to a stretch run in August, in September, and get them some playoff starts where you can actually let them go full tilt, because you will need every single pitch from these guys once you are getting to October, assuming you are getting to October. But With this offense in the state that it is, with this kind of a series win, the Rangers are in a very, very good position over the next couple weeks to finally make up some ground and maybe retake the lead in the AL West. We'll talk about why and more right after this. Now, the Rangers are in a decent spot right now. It's not exactly where they wanted to be heading into the season by any means. I mean, the month of May was incredibly rough for this offense, and this offense still isn't out of the woods just yet. I mean, you look at the game that they had on Saturday, right after scoring 11 runs, it was their eighth time being shut out this season, which is way too many times for an entire season, let alone 60 games into the season. I mean, this was just a really, really rough performance. 12 strikeouts at the top of the lineup. The top 4 hitters in the lineup on Saturday, when he combined 1 for 16 with, I believe this is correct, a 50% strikeout rate. 50% strikeout rate. And the only hit they had was a single by Seager that was deflected. It was a hard hit ball, but still was hit at a defender who couldn't quite make a play on what ended up being an infield single, I believe, for Corey Seager at that point. This was not a great offensive performance. The Rangers, at least, were, well, not as bad as they had been with runners in scoring position. 0 for 1. They only had 1 opportunity with runners in scoring position. They were better in the 11-run outburst, 6 for 14. That is getting closer to what this team is expecting to be. They were 4 for 10 on Sunday. Eventually, this team will start getting a lot luckier with runners in scoring position because they have been hitting balls that should be hits for the most part. Not at the rate that you would expect, but better than what the performance has been. And you look at this schedule over the next, month or so. June was kind of the part of this season where I was thinking, okay, this team just kind of has to survive till June. It shouldn't be that bad in June. And especially with the Orioles falling off a cliff, you look at the next, 4 weeks for the Texas Rangers. They've got a 3-city road trip right now that they're about to embark on. The Rays are kind of an enigma. It is a very, very offense-friendly park in Tampa or wherever their actual field is now, George M. Steinbrenner Field, which is an exact replica of the Yankees' actual stadium because it's the Yankees spring training facility, because, again, the Trop had its dome ripped off and is not playable at this point. It should be an interesting series to see the Rangers playing there. They have literally never played a game there because it is the Grapefruit League in spring training. So the Rangers have never played a game at George M. Steinbrenner Field. Then they go on to take on the Nationals, who are a young, scrappy team with a couple of interesting rookies who they've called up just recently, including Robert Hassel III, who was part of the Juan Soto trade. He's an interesting character for them. James Wood is becoming one of the better power hitters in the league. They've got a couple of decent arms there, but for the most part, not a good team. The Twins were similar to the Cardinals in that they came in with, mixed bag of expectations. They also had an incredibly hot month of May. They had the longest winning streak in baseball, I believe, so far this season. I think it ran all the way up to 12 games. It was at least 11 games, but they had been really hot and kind of cooled off a little bit as of late. They're who the Rangers finish off this 3-team road trip against. But then you look at the rest of this month, and there's really only one, well, maybe two, depending on how you feel about the Royals, maybe 2 good teams that the Rangers faced this month. The Twins, I think, are a fine team, but not great. The Royals have a winning record right now, and they're kind of in a similar position to the Texas Rangers in that they have a great pitching staff and a really great hitting shortstop and not a whole lot of offense around them. They are getting some help in slugger Jack Caglione, who has been absolutely mashing in AAA, a first baseman drafted out of Florida, initially as a 2-way guy, has got crazy power. The Rangers will face off against them in the middle of this month, but outside of that, they got 3 games at home against the White Sox. They've got 3 games on the road against the Pirates, who, again, abysmal offensive team and half-decent starting rotation. Maybe we'll see a Heen Dog bump day there. Maybe the Rangers will be able to be lucky and avoid seeing Paul Skeens. They've also got 3 games against the Orioles and the worst pitching staff in baseball. If it's not the Rockies, then I think it's the Orioles, and their bats have not been nearly as good as they've been in years past. Rangers also have a crucial series against the Mariners at the end of this month at home. Hopefully the Rangers will be in a good way at that point after, a week of facing two truly abysmal teams. And then they start a series at home against the Orioles right after that bleeds into the month of July. So this is a time for the Rangers to start making up some ground, to start, reinvigorating that offense. I mean, Corey Seager hasn't done a whole lot this weekend, but he's still hitting some balls hard, and it doesn't take long for Corey Seager to get hot. And his cold streaks, again, don't last very long. Maybe the Rangers can get some more help from Evan Carter being reintroduced to this lineup, and the starting rotation just has to kind of hold water until Nathan Eovaldi is coming back, which I think will be that series against Kansas City is when he is eligible to return. We'll see when we actually end up seeing Nathan Eovaldi back. No, it'll be June 13th. So that series against the White Sox at home, a 2-series homestand against the White Sox and then the Royals. So the Rangers only have to endure this road trip without Nathan Eovaldi against some teams that are, well, not that great so far this season, which is kind of where the Rangers have been so far this season, is not that great. But it just goes to show you how unpredictable this sport is. I mean, heading into this weekend, especially coming off of, I think, the worst offensive performance I think I've ever seen from a Texas Rangers team in that Wednesday game where they had Corey Seager back in the lineup for the first time in 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. At that point, it had been a long, long time. And then they get shut out and they get one hit and they get just 3 walks in a truly abysmal performance of a bullpen game against a bullpen that is not very good in the Toronto Blue Jays. And this was just a massive offensive explosion this weekend for the Texas Rangers. And you kind of look at these bats all the way up and down this lineup, and you're seeing some signs of life. It's been a little bit of a rough stretch for Wyatt Langford. I'm wondering if he will end up moving back to left field, because when he's been in center field offensively, he hasn't been quite as good. I don't know if that's because he's making the move to center field or just because he has been in a bad way offensively for the last 3 weeks or so. But I think that we're going to continue to see a lot of Alejandro Ozuna. He still doesn't have an extra base hit in his first 7 games, but his on-base percentage has been through the roof. He's walking more than he's striking out. 5 walks are just 3 strikeouts. He has been a little over-aggressive on the base paths, 3 times where he's made an out on the base paths where he probably shouldn't have. 2 times he was caught stealing, and 1 time he kind of overran third was a fielding error and then got tagged to end an inning where the Rangers might have been able to have a rally. But overall, his on-base percentage has been excellent. He's hitting 267. He's got a 476 on base percentage with 5 walks in 21 plate appearances. That is nearly a quarter of the time Alejandro Ozuna is walking. That's something that, he doesn't have loud, boisterous tools. He's not going to hit a ball 120 miles an hour. He's not going to break any records for land speed. He's not racing Usain Bolt. His glove out there in the outfield is pretty solid. Not spectacular in center, pretty good in a corner. The bat to ball ability is pretty solid, but the on base skills have always been there for Alejandro Ozuna, and the Rangers have just needed some kind of base runner, some kind of spark. And I think that Alejandro Ozuna is definitely providing that, to the point where the Rangers are keeping him in the middle of that order. This lineup needs all the help that it can get. And, frankly, especially with Jock Peterson scheduled to be out for at least another 5.5 weeks. And then I think they'll reevaluate when exactly he's coming back. This Rangers team is starting to turn things around offensively. I really think that maybe that's happening. I was kind of checked out a little bit heading into this weekend because I just kind of resigned myself to this team being terrible, because that's what they've been, is terrible. But then you go and have a weekend like this against a couple of pretty decent starting pitchers that the Rangers just battered around. I mean, Eric Fetty had a decent outing, but the Rangers were able to finally get to a bullpen. They've not been able to get to really any bullpens so far this season, and the Rangers were definitely able to do that against the Cardinals in the finale of this season, or of this series. And then they were really able to get to Matthew Liberatore, who had been fantastic so far this season, and batter him for 5 runs in 5 innings. The fact that he made it through 5 innings was honestly a little surprising, because the Rangers were actually working deep counts. They were working 2-out rally. That was the most exciting thing about this offense. And it's the thing that reminded me the most of this offense back when it was at its best in 2023 was they were able to sustain rallies, especially with 2 outs. The Rangers scored 4 runs in the second inning. All of them came with 2 outs. The 2-run RBI triple by Sam Haggerty came with 2 outs, and then the 2-run homer by Wyatt Langford also came with 2 outs in the second inning. And the Rangers were up 5-0. They poured on another 4 spot in the 6th inning, and they were just able to kind of cruise to a victory. They weren't quite cruising as much in the finale, pouring on a lot of the runs late. It was a close game for most of this game. Rangers scored 2 runs in the second and 1 run in the 7th on Sunday, and then poured on another 5 to kind of put it out of reach at the very end of this game. But still, maybe this offense can turn things around. It's still 102 games left in this season, and I still have no idea what to make of this Texas Rangers squad. And for once this season, I'm kind of happy about that. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.